Why do you think science hasn't come out with an official statement like, yeah, there is something possibly going on here?
Okay, I'll trace that back, and we're fixing to go down another genre that is both cryptid and spiritual and biblical. 1936. So the Dogman phenomenon goes back to the 1800s. I mean, I even in my research I found a quote unquote werewolf report from 1945. Excuse me.
Fascinating.
So yes, there is definitely a connection between the Native Americans and these cryptid creatures. There's no doubt in my mind, and that's what MK again finally got through my brain, and it opened up my viewpoint and my eyes. And he has a really good friend, Ron Moorhead. Ron Moorhead is a Bigfoot investigator of renown who recorded back in the 70s what's known as the Sierra Sounds. And these tapes were of this place way back in the California mountains where they had a hunting camp, and they had Sasquatch just all around them.
I'm familiar with that because I'm from California. I'm from California originally. So.
Right. So they were able to record these sounds that these creatures were making, and lo and behold, decades later, they were analyzed by a gentleman by the name of Scott Nelson, and he discovered that there is a language that's in these sounds. And but the thing that got me about Ron was at the time this book that he had just written and published called The Quantum Bigfoot. And in this book, Ron Moorhead lays out that he's talking about, again, the woo. He's talking about the fact that these creatures can make sounds that sounds like car doors slamming in the middle of the woods, car horns, the sound of their camp one night being absolutely demolished.
Oh, wow.
And they wake up the next morning, go outside of their fortified structure, every pot, pan, cooking utensil, perfectly in place right where they left it. But that night, it sounded like it was being destroyed. Now, think about that.
I wonder if that's like some kind of psychic, implantation of thoughts, because you can affect matter in that way. Like we were talking about the whole idea of the brain being a receiver and transmitter of information on the quantum level.
Yes.
Like maybe electronically and, psychically, they could make that connection and make us believe things that aren't necessarily true. Like I'm just guessing.
Well, again, when you go back to what happened with me there in the woods, the sounds that I heard behind me, and I turn around and there's absolutely nothing there. Something was at work there. Something was affecting my electronics.
Clearly, yeah.
And when you look at what Ron basically was saying was these things are able to affect matter. They're able to access, quantum mechanics, quantum science. That's how this can be explained. And again, it was another eye-opening, deal for me. So, his book, The Quantum Bigfoot, it's required reading, especially if you feel that Bigfoot, and again, I slipped that right over to Dogman, that if they can do these things, they're manipulating, they're operating things that are there. They're operating and doing things that, like, okay, again, look at Jesus when Jesus performed his miracles. Jesus was manipulating and using the things that we see around us, and for a better lack of term, the things we don't see every day. We don't see atoms, and we don't see neutrons, and we don't see neurons, but we know that they're there, and they can be manipulated. Yep. If you have the talent and the means and the power and the ability, you can manipulate that. So I feel like some of these creatures definitely have the ability to do that.
That is fascinating. I mean, I never knew that about them, but I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
It does. It really does.
When you brought up the fact that creature uttered that name, I mean, it just makes me, because I'm from a Christian background.
I am too.
So I try and root everything biblically. And we, we agree on most things, and that's why I think we work so well together. Is because while she comes from the Native American beliefs and what her tribe actually believed,
Absolutely.
they're
That's
parallels
awesome.
in a lot of ways.
There is a synergy. There is a middle ground.
Yes.
absolutely,
Absolutely,
and
there is.
it just makes me wonder that these creatures, if they are, because we really don't know, the spiritual realm as far as how the Bible describes it. And the Bible says there is one, but all we really know is like the angels, the hierarchy of the angel, and then somewhat about like the demonic realm. But there are tons, like millions of creatures well within that realm as well that isn't necessarily recorded in the Bible, but it is talked about. And they're able to do these things just like demons are able to manipulate things around us, make us scared, make us frightened, make us see things that aren't really there. I mean, this kind of sounds a lot of the same thing.
Well,
Which is interesting to me.
And the thing about that, now we've talked about the paranormal and all like that. Let's touch on science. Science now, 2026. More and more scientists are coming out and acknowledging the possibility, the fact, however you want to view it, that there are other dimensions, that there are other realms, that there could be parallel, universes and all that stuff is looking, more and more solid every year that science is looking at it.
Absolutely. I mean, every year in leaps and bounds, theoretical physicists are coming out
leaps and bounds.
Just the most amazing things.
It is. It really is. And so what was once, something that would get you locked up in a mental institution, or you'd be shunned because, you're some kind of weirdo or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whether you're just a layman or a scientist, that again, that's more accepted, and it's more fact based now.
Yeah.
It is.
Excuse me.
It is.
So with, all the, even like with just the research you've done, but also all the research that's come up before and the proof that they've had or that's been presented, why do you think science hasn't come out with an official statement like, yeah, there is something possibly going on here?
Okay. I'll trace that back, and we're fixing to go down another genre that is both cryptid and spiritual and biblical. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, it talks about how the sons of God, which were the watcher angels, they left their heavenly position. They saw that the women of that time were gorgeous and beautiful. Excuse me, my sinuses are really bothering me. Came down, mated with human women, creating a hybrid. And these hybrids became what, in a generic term, became known as the Nephilim. And the giants could be anywhere from 7 foot tall. I think there's accounts of them being 20, 25 feet tall, possibly even larger. Well, bringing that forward and bringing in science. Okay, the Smithsonian Institution was founded by, its namesake. And he had an open book and an open door policy. He wanted to show the bones and the remains that they were finding inside these Indian mounds, these burial mounds. Mm-hmm. And they were finding the bones of giants. Well, when he got pushed to the side and the new regime came in and, it became a government entity, so to speak.
Yeah.
This sector of government did not want anything to do with the Bible. They didn't want anything to do with Christianity. They didn't want anything that could prove that the biblical account of giants was real. Because if you can prove that giants were real, you just proved Genesis. Now, let's talk about Raven and her heritage for a moment.
I was just going to go there with you.
We live here in Mississippi, and in the two main tribes that were famous and renowned of Mississippi is the Choctaw and the Chickasaw. When the Choctaw crossed over the Mississippi River into Tennessee and they started working their way down into Mississippi, guess what? They encountered 12-foot tall giants, red hair, 6 fingers, 6 toes. They were cannibalistic. They were sexually deviant. They were attacking,
Yes.
violating the women and children, eating the children, and making war with, the tribes. And
It's well-known folklore, yeah.
the Choctaw Indians, when you examine their lore and everything, and I quote, "We made it a point to kill them every chance that we could," because there was no getting along with them. There was no coexisting with these creatures. These
Exactly.
and this is virtually every Native American culture, top to bottom, left to right, in the United States of America, Canada. There are giant stories, and just about nearly every single one of these giant legends and I don't want to use the word myth, because I don't believe it was myth. Lore, it never ended well. The Native Americans had to wipe them out, and a lot of times different people, the white man, the Spanish, the French, whoever, they would go into certain areas and they would see these 100-foot tall Indian mounds, tons of dirt, tons of earth that was used to construct these huge mounds. And these people would move in and they would ask their new Native American friends, when did you build that? How did y'all do that? And the answer would be, we didn't build that. That was already here when we got here. So a lot of these mounds, I feel like, are these giants were surviving Nephilim that left the land of Canaan because, God and everybody else was out to get them. They had to go. They ended up here in the Americas, and they ended up here in the United States, and they ended up having encounters with our Native American friends, and that would prove science wrong. They did not want to discount Darwinism. It was support Darwinism at all costs. Damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. We're not going to acknowledge this. So science has a problem admitting anything that could favorably shed a light on Native American beliefs, because the Native Americans knew these things were real. They were fighting them. They were dealing with them. And then modern man is coming along. We're finding the bones. We're finding the remains in these mounds. And science is like, nope. And, was this something that the opposite of God, the other side, is this something that they, tried to squash and promote Darwinism? Yeah, I think that's highly possible. But for whatever reason, science has had a problem with this stuff, especially when it comes to something that could prove the Bible as being correct.
Absolutely. And it kind of, goes back as well, because I've been doing a lot of research, especially with our line of work and what we got to deal with on almost a weekly basis now, which is scary. But even, those very Nephilim that were slaughtered, since they weren't entirely human, they didn't have a soul in the way that we do.
Right.
So, what happens to those souls? Will they, become chaotic? And that's why I think people today still deal with the demonic entities that cause chaos in their house and their home. But also, it could be, the crazy thing is it could be even these cryptids.
Yeah.
They could have just morphed. Like it's,
well,
for something.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it was more like interbreeding, because they seem to be doing a lot of interbreeding.
Oh, definitely.
Throughout history. So there could be something to what you say. It could have been through like an, interbreeding type thing. Kind of weird.
I 100% agree with that.
If they were all the horrible things they did, I wouldn't put bestiality off the table.
Oh, no.
Is that off the table for them? Clearly not.
Even in like the Bible, because when the Israelites went into Canaan, most of that nation at the time were giants.
Yes.
Most all of them were giants. And
they made a comeback after the flood. The
right,
flood.
Yeah. Because you had Goliath, you had his brother.
Oh, yes.
5 of them.
Well, and
so
when you look at the book of Enoch, and which is a fascinating account of what was going on in those days and times. It mentions in there that they were having relations with all sorts of beasts and reptiles and all like that. And if you stop and think about it, look at our mythology. Look at Greek mythology. Look at Roman mythology and all like that, the Gorgon, the Minotaurs, the Medusa, things like that. It's very possible that what we read about in, all those ancient, myths and legends, maybe possibly our Native American, what if they were seeing creatures that were left over that were these hybrids? And I think Raven said this just a little while ago. It could be that some of what we're dealing with could be, their modern day equivalents. Some of these cryptids could very well be what has survived and what's come down through the ages.
Absolutely. Another kind of question with recent events in the news and all that fun stuff about UFOs, can
Okay.
obviously people are interested in this topic. And so can you kind of delve into that a little bit, especially for the people that aren't familiar with like MUFON and all that? Can you kind of talk about that and what y'all do and what that's all about?
Sure. I'm not with MUFON anymore. I left them a few years back. And, and it wasn't because I was upset or anything like that. I left on good terms. But it was just that I had taken a new job, and that job just did not allow me the time and the ability to do what MUFON needed me to do. That and the fact that I had become so wrapped up and involved with MUFON that I was not able to get out into the field and do cryptid research and cryptid investigations and all like that. So I was missing that really, really bad. But the thing about MUFON is, you don't just open up a cereal box, reach down in the bottom, and pull out your magic decoder ring that says, "Hey, you're a member of MUFON now." Yeah, that does not happen. You are trained scientifically. You are trained as far as the weird aspect of ufology. You're taught all that, and you go through hours upon hours upon hours of training and classes and courses. And I took a year. I studied for a year. I could have done it quicker, but I just didn't want to be in a rush. But it took me a year before I became a certified field investigator for MUFON. And like I say, I investigated UFOs and UFO cases for close to 5 years. I also was a part of their experiencer resource team. I helped with alleged alien abduction cases as well. So what you're dealing with now, what the big hullabaloo now is, for decades, the United States government has said, especially back in the late 60s and all like that, 50s, whatever, when they ended their official, well, let me do it like this, guys. When they ended their interest and their research into UFOs, we're not stupid. The people in the UFO field, what you guys do, the cryptids, we didn't fall off of a turnip truck yesterday. We know that kept going.
Right.
Anybody with a brain could see and figure out that the government never stopped looking into UFOs. They never stopped investigating. They just didn't have a certified group out there doing it. It became more closed quarters. So about 2017, the cat comes out of the bag, and there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. The New York Times and everybody blasts out there that the government has been researching where? Skinwalker Ranch. Bob Bigelow had 3 governmental deals investigating the paranormal UFOs at Skinwalker Ranch. Senator Harry Reid championed the funding so that Bob Bigelow could do this research. And of course, we all hear about Skinwalker Ranch now.
Yep.
The books, the TV show, we know that Skinwalker Ranch is a paranormal hotspot where you name the phenomenon or the phenomena and it's there. So we've peeled off a layer of the onion, and now people are going, so wait, you've got video, you've got the Tic Tac video, you've got the Go Fast video, you've got the gimbal video that was taken by Navy pilots, and Department of Defense. Hello, yeah, they're real. We don't know what they are.
Right.
So this starts a steamrolling effect to what we have now. You have politicians, like Burleson and Anna Paulina Luna and Burchett, they're fighting tooth and nail because they know that our government has been holding stuff back about researching and investigating this phenomenon. And so 2 weeks ago, because they have been applying pressure, and it must be some really tough pressure that these guys are applying. But 2 weeks ago, we had a dump of, I forget how many videos and documents that went up on the Department of War.gov site. And then, a few days ago, we had another dump of 40 some odd more videos and documents that is that is making the headlines. Everybody's talking about it. Fox News, CNN, everybody, every podcaster that's out there is talking about this stuff. So that's what we got going on today. And is that a good thing? Absolutely, it's a good thing. These documents and these videos, they're illuminating, to say the very least. Are we going to get, disclosure? I think you're getting disclosure with a small d, not a capital D, a small d. That's what you're getting. Now,
I think it's barely the tip of the iceberg. It's barely the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely it has. But and that's the difference. Everybody's talking about the word disclosure. There's another word that's more important. It's called confirmation. Confirm for us what we're dealing with. Confirm that we're dealing with aliens. Confirm that we're dealing with ultra-terrestrials. Confirm that we're dealing with interdimensionals. Will we see that? I doubt it very seriously.
Probably.
I mean, and I'm going to tell you what scares me about all this. And Burchett said this the other day, and that gentleman is, he's from Tennessee, I believe. He's an old Southern boy. And one thing that you got to say about us old Southern boys and old Southern gals, we got a whole hell of a lot of common sense going on. And he is seeing it, and he knows it, and he's not dumb. And basically what he's saying is they're going to start shoving this stuff out here, and they're going to mix in videos that can be explained. And let me go back to MUFON for just a second, and then we'll circle back. When it comes to UFO sightings, you can apply the same thing to Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever. Look at your field. 95, if not more % can be explained in a rational, common, scientific manner.
Absolutely.
I had a guy when I investigated a case, and he was a nice guy, but he argued me down that what he saw was a UFO. And I had to explain to him, I'm like, no, sir, what you saw was a Russian rocket booster re-entering the atmosphere. Because I had the equipment and the data at my fingertips that showed me that at the exact time, the exact direction that he was looking in, that moment in time, that's what that was. It was a Russian rocket booster, re-entering the atmosphere. And half of the cases that I investigated and looked into, absolutely 100% explainable. But I had that small percent that no, there was no explaining. About 3 or 4 of my last cases were all involved the black triangles, the famous black triangle craft that people have been seeing. There was no explanation for that. So again, when you come back to it, a lot of this can be explained. And I think that what Burchett is saying is they're going to mix water and oil in a skillet, and it's going to smoke up everything, and eventually people are going to get bored and they're going to move on. I think this may have been something that we were going to talk about. Why are people not going bonkers about this?
Yeah, I feel like the public is extremely underwhelmed by what is out there on the government website. I've perused through it, and I'm like, look, this is the same old stuff you guys keep rehashing over and over. Is it like a psyop? Are you trying to desensitize us to when you finally release the real stuff? Nobody really cares anymore.
Yeah.
So,
well,
what's going on here?
Well,
yeah.
Again, I hate to say this, but I tell you what, let me say this first. A lot of people are not paying attention, and they're not looking because they got bills to pay. They got groceries to put on the table. They got a mortgage. You know, sadly they're probably head over heels in debt. You know, they've got real world issues that they're trying to fix and solve and deal with every day. And they're not studying, you know, UFOs. Half of them don't even they don't want to watch the news. They don't want to hear what this political party or that political party's doing. They don't want to have nothing to do with it. And then on the flip side, this is the part that gets my goat. And having raised a preteen, then a teenage daughter who is now a wonderful grown woman, and you know, just an amazing person, got a wonderful career. But when she was younger and living here with me, if I so much as stepped in front of a TV screen and Keeping Up with the Kardashians was on,
oh Lord,
I was
I'm sorry.
probably going to get something thrown at me. You know, Dad, get out of the way. You know.
I'm so sorry for you. That's horrible.
I mean, and my point is, we're not interested in what's really going on in the world around us. We want to watch what this group of goofballs are, what drama they're stirring up, who's sleeping with who, who's orchestrating this this coup d'etat, in this business outfit. That's the trash that people, and where'd it go? Here's another problem.
True.
We're too busy
Scrolling.
We're scrolling and we're looking at. Look, I'm a cat owner. I love funny cat videos. Okay, I can watch them all day long.
Yeah, but who doesn't? They're great.
I mean,
they're great, man.
and there's funny dog videos for the dog lovers out there. But people are just they're not paying attention to this stuff, and I don't think people realize how important these videos and these things are. Because number one, let's say, for example, that a fraction of these videos, and it's not very likely, but it's possible. Suppose this is technology that another country has come up with, and they have leapfrogged us here in the United States. I mean, we are the technologically the greatest power on this planet. But if somebody else has created a device that can do the things that these things can do, we got serious problems here in the United States of America. And those chickens could come home to roost just any time. But if they're not from here, then shouldn't we be trying to find out and figure out where they're coming from, why they're here, why they're doing what they're doing? What's their agenda? Is it good? Is it bad? Those are things, and again, same thing about Bigfoot and Dogman. We should be interested in as much as we can about these creatures and about this phenomena, because what if these things don't have our best interests at heart? That could be a bad day for a lot of us here on good old planet Earth.
And well, I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, where the holes when the science stepped into things, when organized, I'll say organized science stepped into things. I mean, for at least 100 years, we've just been desensitized to everything. I mean, of course, the alien thing didn't really start till the late 50s, early 60s.
1947.
Not with you white people. Yeah, with you white people.
Well,
my people always had to start people.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
That's true.
White people are always last to get there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we didn't wake up till 1947. That was when we got the reality check.
Yeah, and over those years, you've always the popular opinion was, oh, it's not real.
Right.
None of that's real.
You're told it's not real.
You get shows like, I'm going to bring it up again because that's the only show I know of, and there's a Albert Einstein wannabe on there. That's the only one I can remember. That show, Ancient Aliens, people look at that show, watch that show, see the guy with the crazy hair, and they're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. So all we've had up to this point is that. So it's understandable that, people are like, yeah, whatever.
It's an interesting show.
Then with all the controversy going on, with our president, the other stuff that he's got going with the war, the Epstein files. I mean, people are now saying like, oh, well, that's just hide facts about that and keep us distracted from that stuff. So now, if the government's feeding us UFOs, I mean, people think about that kind of stuff and they're like, this is just a distraction. So I can kind of see where the underwhelmingness comes from.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
There's also a very glorious time to data dump a bunch of truth and fiction at the same time, because the general public just,
well,
they're too distracted. Like you said, they're too distracted. So if you did data dump something that was true, they're just simply not going to believe it at this point. I don't think.
well, and I'll tell you what happened with me this morning. I mean, I worked on some NADP projects yesterday, and then I got up this morning and I was like, okay, I need to do a little, NADP house cleaning, for Region 5. But before I did that, I'm like, I want to go look at these videos. I want to look at this second, dump. And I'm sitting there and I'm hitting video, video. And finally, I just got tired.
Mm-hmm.
And look, what I was looking at was absolutely fascinating. I mean, to see something that is just moving along here, and all of a sudden it just does this, and and it's just. I mean, we don't have nothing that can do that, folks. I mean, it's not a balloon. It's not weather pushing something around like that. It's not a drone from Walmart. It's no. That is not what this is. But to me, if you're wanting to hide something, just throw a big pile of it out there, and people will get tired of sorting through it and looking, just like I did this morning.
Yeah, it's a lot. They put a lot out.
But I'm telling you, there's stuff off in those files, those videos, and those documents that absolutely confirm that whatever this is, it's not us. This is something from somewhere else. It's not our government. It's not Russia. It's not, Iran. It's not coming from around here. But again, people are going to go, well, I gotta go to the mall. I gotta get Susie that new pair of shoes that, my next door friend of me, bought for her daughter. I gotta go get her a better pair of shoes. And, so off we go. We're not looking at what's going on, with those videos.
Very true. Very true. Well, thank you so much for that. So tell us about ObscuraCon. You're going to be at ObscuraCon. When is it? Where is it? And what is this about? Okay,
I got to admit I'm a very bad, guest here. I think I got everything together for you guys except that. It is in July, if my memory serves me correct. It is like the 25th and 26th of July. It's a Friday and a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And it is in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And I'm trying to see if I got a picture here of what's... yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. It's July 24 and 25th. And, I was just cussing this thing a little while ago, and it just saved my life.
And now we need it.
So yes, it's July 24th and 25th, ObscuraCon. And look, they've got a great lineup. There's a lot of paranormal folks that you probably are aware of. For example, you got Deborah Burris, Vivian Wilders, I think I'm not butchering her name, Chloe Mannon, Larry Flaxman. We got Ron James with MUFON. You got Dr. Heather Lynn. She's going to be there. Patty Negri, from Ghost Adventures. She's going to be there. And then on the cryptid side, you've got Lyle Blackburn. He's really, really big time, great researcher and author. And then you've got Stan and John, who were known as the Paranormal Pastors. Raven, if you don't know anything about these guys, you need to look them up. The Paranormal Rangers.
I know exactly who they are.
Okay. All right. So
last time I was out in the Southwest, I was at the Cultural Center on the Navajo Reservation, and we had gotten into a conversation there, and they mentioned those guys.
Yep.
They're kind of celebrities, big time.
They are, and then on Friday afternoon, I think we're kind of closing things out. You're going to have, myself and my buddy Patrick Bryan with the NADP. We're going to be doing a presentation on called Science versus Sensationalism, and that's going to be our NADP, presentation, because a lot of people they love to jump out of the airplane, and once they're on the way down, that's when they go, "Ooh, where's my parachute at?" And we deal with that a lot. I mean, I'm not sure if you heard, but we had a case that we investigated in Oklahoma of recent. This it was a purported dogman attack. A woman was supposedly attacked by a dogman, viciously attacked. She was really seriously messed up, and everybody jumped on the bandwagon. I mean,
Wow.
I mean, you name the local news, every cryptid podcast, every cryptid radio show. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with L.A. Marzulli and his work, but
Not
but
really.
you know, L.A. Marzulli, he's a Christian, you know, paranormal guy, and he even jumped on the bandwagon, and I'm sitting here going like, you got to be careful with that, and that's the whole point of the presentation, because after all this went down, I mean, for weeks, you know, everybody, I hate to say this, it's going to sound bad, and I don't mean for it to, but everybody wanted this to be a dogman attack so bad. And that's a horrible thing to say. And now we know scientifically that it was not a dogman attack. It was a regular canines. And this poor lady, you know, her life will never be the same. But,
of course not.
But everybody jumped on the dogman deal, and they jumped on it without any facts, without a full investigation. The NADP, we did a full investigation, and from the jump street, we started suspecting that this was not dogman. And then, you know, we go as far as we can. We came to our conclusions. We kept that private. We kept that close, and because we didn't want to offend or hurt anybody or anything like that. That's not what we do. And we let the wheels of the law roll out the verdict. It was a canine attack. DNA proved beyond a shadow of a doubt it was known canine. So that's the thing about doing what we do. I mean, I knew a fellow one time who was a Bigfoot researcher and investigator. And when we would go into the woods, every twig that snapped, every leaf that moved, everything was Bigfoot. And
we know the ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got.
So you have to learn, and you have to, first off, you got to work on yourself. You got to rein yourself in as an investigator and as a researcher. You've got to pull yourself back and, you know, go with what it's like MK always told me, no matter where the facts lead you, if it's the truth, go with the truth every time. Never go with a lie. You know,
absolutely.
He told me one time, he said, never be afraid to be right, but don't be afraid to be wrong. And, you know, just serious words of wisdom from my mentor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Marcus, it has been fantastic having you on. Like, we could just sit here all night and just keep talking.
Oh, I could too.
We'll definitely have to have you back on.
Okay. Anytime.
All right, man. Thank you so much for being on.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure and an honor, and I appreciate you having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.